The stars in the Cygnus expanse were silent, cold. And endless Captain Elias Rourke sat in the pilot's chair of his rusty cargo ship, the Vagrant Star, sipping bitter coffee that tasted like burned plastic. The ship was old, patched together, with parts from at least 4 different manufacturers, but it flew, and that was enough for him. He had no crew, no contracts, and no plans, just a haul of mining tools meant for a moon colony that hadn't paid in advance. Typical, suddenly. The silence shattered, his ship's radar pinged, red lights flashed across his dashboard. He leaned forward, frowning. Unknown distress signal. Priority 1, the computer announced. Rourke tapped the screen. Coordinates. A map appeared deep in neutral space. No colonies, no trade routes, just emptiness and danger. Of course, he muttered. Normally he wouldn't care. He wasn't in the rescue business. He had done his time in Earth's Space Force and left with a bad record and a worse reputation. Now, he flew alone and kept his nose clean. But something in the signal caught his attention, a voice, broken and stacky, yet commanding. This is Queen Velshara. Under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. Rourke blinked. Queen. He didn't recognize the name. Alien for sure. But the desperation in the voice was real. He hesitated for 5 seconds. Then he turned the ship around. The journey to the signal source took 23 minutes, when the Vagrant Star dropped out of warp. The view was chaos. A massive alien ship, shaped like a giant silver mantis, floated in space, so burning. Wings broken and escape pods launching, like tiny sparks. Around it swarmed 5 sleek, black ships with curved blades and blood-red engines. Zorokai warships, Rourke muttered. Aggressive bastards. He had heard of them, ruthless insectoid aliens who took what they wanted and killed the rest. If they were here, this wasn't a random attack. Rourke powered up his weapons. His ship wasn't built for combat. But he had installed a few surprises. He dove straight in. The Zorokai didn't notice him at first. He looped under there. Formation and fired a full burst of plasma at the rear ship's engine. Direct hit. The alien ship spun, flaming, and exploded. Now they noticed. The remaining Zorokai ships turned toward him. Firing streams of red energy, Rourke grinned. He dodged left, then up, using the gravity slingshot of the burning mothership to flip around and drop behind the second attacker. He fired again, missiles this time. Another ship down. Not bad for an old freighter, he said. But he couldn't fight all day. He opened a channel to the alien ship. This is Captain Elias Rourke. I'm here to help. Anyone still alive? A pause. Then the same voice from before, clearer this time. You are not Zalari. Why are you helping us? I'll explain later. You want off that ship or not? Moment passed. I am in the command chamber. Coordinates sent. Hurry. Rourke swung his ship close to the wounded alien vessel. His landing clamps barely gripped the damaged hull. He pulled on his armored suit, grabbed his plasma rifle. Time to meet royalty. Time to meet royalty. The inside of the alien ship was a nightmare, flickering lights, smoke sparks, and the bodies of insectoid warriors littering the floors. Their exoskeletons were cracked, their weapons still in their hands. Rourke moved fast. His boots clanged on the metal floor as he followed the coordinates. He passed massive egg-like stasis pods, glowing with a soft blue light. The Zellary ship looked organic in places, like living steel. It pulsed under his feet. At last he reached the command chamber. The door was sealed. Override, he muttered. Hooking up a bypass tool? Come on, come on. The door hissed open. Inside stood Queen Velshara. She was tall, with a thin exoskeletal body of shimmering green and gold. 4 arms, 2 folded across her chest, and a crown-like structure of crystal growing from her head. Her eyes were violet and piercing. Around her lay the bodies of fallen guards. She held a curved blade in one hand, covered in ichor. You're the queen? Rourke asked, stunned. Velshara tilted her head. And you are human. That's right, I'm here to get you out. More explosions shook the ship. No time to argue, he said. Come on. The Queen hesitated, then nodded. Lead the way. The return path wasn't smooth. As they moved through the corridors, one last Zorkai squad burst through a side door. The insect-like soldiers hissed and charged, blades clicking. Rourke fired first clean, precise shots. The Queen fought beside him, graceful and deadly. Her blade sliced through 2 attackers in one sweep. They moved like a team, back to back, covering each other. When the last Zorkai fell, Velshara looked at him with new respect. You fight well, she said. So do you. Royal training? She gave a strange chuckle. Born for war. They made it back to the Vagrant Star. Just as the mothership cracked open in a final explosion, Rourke lifted off and engaged warp. They were safe for now. Inside the ship, Velshara sat in the co-pilot chair, silent for a long time. Finally, she spoke. You had no reason to help me. Nope, Rourke said. Did it anyway? Why? He shrugged. Someone was in trouble. That's enough. The Queen studied him. Humans are unpredictable. You get that a lot. She turned her head slowly, eyes glowing in the dark. You may have just changed the future of 2 civilizations. Rourke raised an eyebrow. That's a lot for one guy with a rusty ship. Velshara stood, tall and proud. You saved the life of a queen. That is not something my people forget. You will be honored. Rourke leaned back in his chair, staring into the stars. Can't wait to see what that means. The stars outside the Vagrant Star were calm now, but inside the ship, the air felt heavy. Queen Velshara stood in the control room, staring out the window. Her long, armored body shimmered with green and gold under the dim lights. Spoken much since they escaped, Captain Elias Rourke leaned against the wall, arms crossed. You've been quiet. I am thinking, the Queen replied. Thinking about what? She turned to face him. About you, about your species, about why a human would risk his life for someone he does not know. Rourke gave a tired smile. I've asked myself the same thing. She stepped closer, studying him. On my world, loyalty must be earned through blood or bond. You gave it freely. That is strange. I'm not normal, he said. You'll figure that out. Soon enough. A few hours later, they arrived in neutral orbit above Zelari Prime, the capital world of the Queen's people. Rourke had never seen anything like it. Massive green cities built into towering crystal mountains, glowing with bioluminescent light. Giant spires stretched into the clouds. Flying creatures carried goods across the sky. It was beautiful and alien, like a dream out of place in the cold galaxy. As they approached, Velshara spoke again. You must wear this. She handed him a silver collar-like device. What is it? A translator, symbol of peace. It will allow you to speak in our tongue and show the guards you are under my protection. Rourke sighed and put it on. Hope this doesn't explode. Queen smiled with amusement. Only if you insult my ancestors. When they landed, a full escort of armored insectoid guards waited outside the ship. They bowed deeply as Velshara stepped out. Rourke followed, feeling out of place in his dusty pilot jacket. Alien eyes studied him, unsure whether to fear or respect the outsider. Do not speak unless spoken to, Velshara whispered. Zelari society is formal. Single word out of place can insult a whole bloodline. Great, Rourke muttered. No pressure. They walked through glowing corridors filled with humming energy. At the heart of the city stood the Hive. Citadel, where the Queen would be welcomed and Rourke would be judged. Inside the throne chamber, dozens of Zelari nobles gathered. Each wore strange armor, delicate robes, and jeweled crowns. At the far end stood a circular platform of light, where Velshara raised her hand. Your queen has returned. The crowd buzzed with clicking approval, but then fell silent as she added, and this is the one who saved me. All heads turned. Rourke gave an awkward wave. Hi. No one waved back. Later that day, Rourke was given guest quarters in the Royal Tower. They were massive white crystal walls, floating furniture, and a view of the sky. He'd never stayed in a place this clean, let alone one that didn't smell like engine oil. But he couldn't relax. There were no locks on the doors, no humans around, and the guards watched him like a dangerous pet. A soft chime echoed. The door opened. Queen Valshara stepped inside. "You should not be alone tonight," she said. "I'm used to it," Rourke replied. She walked to the window. "The nobles are not pleased. They say I made a mistake bringing you here, did you?" Turn, no, you acted with honor. But the hive thinks with memory, not instinct. To them, a human is. Unpredictable, wild, unworthy. I've been called worse. Valshara's voice softened.
Wow. Wow, when in the mall, we're on cam, when I grag, I grag, and grag, crocker, we probably was and we walk on one was one, they were cool,
But I cannot. Rourke sat on the bed. Why not? The queen paused, her violet eyes glowing. Because I owe you my life. And in my culture, a queen repays a life debt. It's with blood or with bond. Rourke frowned. What does that mean? Valshara gave a strange, quiet smile. You'll understand soon. The next day, a grand feast was held in the Hall of Ancients. Rourke was dressed in formal Zelari robes, tight, itchy, and glowing blue. He felt like a walking jellyfish. Valshara stood beside him, tall and proud in ceremonial armor. Every noble, general, and royal from the 5 hive worlds was present. Alien music played, sharp and metallic. Servants brought trays of steaming food, most of it alive, some of it floating. Rourke poked something that blinked back at him and decided to skip dinner. Then the room went silent. Valshara stepped onto the central platform, raised her arms, and spoke. My life was saved by this human. His courage broke enemy lines, and his actions preserved our future. Few nobles hissed. He is not one of us. One growled. He is flesh-born, weak, dishonorable. Rourke clenched his fists. Valshara continued. Louder. But he acted when others did not. He risked death for a stranger, and I will not repay such honor with silence. She turned to face him. In the name of the hive, the stars, and the ancient Valshara, queen of the Zelari dominion, offer right of bond to Elias Rourke of Earth. Gasps filled the hall. Rourke blinked. Wait, what? She stepped closer. A life debt paid not with coin, but with marriage. Rourke stood frozen. Did she just propose? Valshara's face was calm, but her voice was serious. It is the highest form of gratitude, a bond between bloodlines. You will not be a prisoner, but a partner, a king. He glanced at the stunned crowd, then back at her. You're serious? Very? Why me? You were honest, brave, and very confusing. She almost smiled. I have known many warriors. None have ever offered help without expecting reward. Rourke rubbed his face. This is a lot. You may say no, she added softly. You will still be honored. But if you say yes, you will walk beside me and your people will have a voice in the stars. Silence filled the room. Everyone waited. Rourke looked around at the nobles, the glowing spires, the watching guards, and then back at the strange, powerful queen who could have let him die but didn't. Can I think about it? The queen nodded. You have until moonfall. That night, Rourke sat alone on a balcony. Above him, 3 moons hung in the sky. Their pale light shimmered on the crystal towers. Somewhere below, alien birds sang soft metallic songs. He didn't feel like a hero, just a tired man in a strange world. But something stirred in him. Earth had always been small, closed, and political. He had been thrown out of the Space Force for breaking rules to save civilians. He'd lost everything. And now here he was, being offered something more than a medal? A second chance? He looked out across the city. Maybe, just maybe, this was what fate looked like. Morning light poured through the crystal windows of the royal tower. The golden sun of Zelari Prime rose over the mountains. Painting the city in shades of green and silver, Captain Elias Rourke hadn't slept. He sat on the balcony watching Alien. Birds fly across the sky. Inside his mind, everything was spinning. A queen had proposed marriage. Not just a queen, alien queen, ruler of a powerful species. It was madness, and yet, part of him couldn't stop thinking about her, about Vel's single quotes. Shara. Later. That morning, a servant arrived. The young insectoid bowed deeply. Captain Rourke, the queen is waiting. He nodded and followed. He was dressed in formal robes again, with the silver translator still around his neck. His hair was messy, his boots dirty, but his eyes were sharp as they reached the grand hall. The scene was already set. The chamber was filled with nobles, warriors, and high priests. Floating lights drifted above the crowd. A massive recording orb hovered near the ceiling, transmitting the event across the galaxy. In the center, Queen Velshara stood tall in a new ceremonial outfit armor made of golden silk and steel. Glowing slightly with power, her crown shimmered like a living jewel. Rourke took a deep breath and stepped forward. The room fell silent. Velshara raised her hand. In the presence of the hive, I call Elias Rourke to answer.
Ace.
Rourke looked. At her, she was alien, yes, but also strong, proud, and honest. She had never lied to him, never tried to use him, and he had seen her fight, bleed, and stand against her enemies without fear. He stepped onto the lighted platform beside her. I'm not a king, he said. I'm not a hero. It is a man who saw someone in danger and did something about it. A few nobles murmured, but Velshara nodded calmly. I know who you are. That is why I chose you. Rourke looked around. If I say yes, this changes everything. It already has, she said. He looked back at her. Then I say, yes, the crowd gasped. The recording orb glowed brighter, capturing every second. Velshara turned to the high priest, who raised a golden staff. By bond of life and blade, the rite is accepted. Let it be known across the stars. A new era begins within hours. The news spread across the galaxy. Human pilot accepts Zelari Queen's proposal. First interspecies royal bond in history. Earth's wildcard marries the Bug Queen. On Earth, people were confused, amazed, and divided. The United Earth Council called an emergency meeting. Half of them were furious, calling Rourke reckless, saying he had no right to represent all of humanity, but others saw opportunity. A human married to an alien queen meant diplomacy, trade, and power. It meant a seat at the galactic table. Still, the Zorakai were not happy. 3 days later, the vagrant star was upgraded and renamed the Royal Flame, symbol of unity between the Zelari and Earth. Rourke stood on the bridge, staring at the stars. Velshara stood beside him. We made history, he said. We made enemies too, she replied. He turned to her. The Zorakai, they believe your acceptance of the right is an insult to their claim. They believe I should have chosen one of their blood. Let me guess, war. Soon, she said. But not yet. That night, the queen took Rourke on a walk through the royal gardens. Glowing trees lit the paths, and alien flowers sang soft notes as they moved. I never asked you something, Rourke said. Why didn't you choose one of your own? Velshara stopped. Because I have lived surrounded by power, politics, and lies. Everyone around me wants something. I didn't even know who you were, exactly. They stood under a giant glass dome. Above them, stars blinked quietly. You still have doubts, she said. I don't doubt you. I doubt myself, he admitted. I'm just a guy with a broken past and a half-decent aim. She reached out, touching his hand with one of her own. Then we both carry broken things. Together, we may become something stronger. Rourke smiled slightly. You're better at speeches than I am. I've had practice. Back in the city, trouble was brewing. That same night, the palace alarms screamed. Rourke rushed into the hallways, weapon in hand. Guards were everywhere, shouting in the Zellerai language. He spotted one of Velshara's advisors. What's going on? An assassin, the guard growled. Inside the tower, Rourke's blood turned cold. He ran toward Velshara's chambers. 2 guards were down. The doors were half open. Tall, insectoid with black armor and curved blades, stood over the queen's sleeping form. Rourke didn't hesitate. He raised his rifle and fired. The shot struck the assassin in the chest, knocking him back. The queen awoke, leapt to her feet, and activated a hidden blade on her arm. Together, they fought. Rourke fired again while Velshara slashed with perfect speed and control. The assassin was fast, but not fast enough. After a brutal exchange, he fell, smoking and bleeding. Rourke ran to the queen. You okay? She nodded, thanks to you. Again, he said. I'm starting to see a pattern. After the attack, the palace was locked down. Investigations began. The assassin had ties to the Zorakai, proof that this marriage had become more than a love story. It was a threat to the old powers. But the people of Zalari began to change. They had seen a human fight beside their queen. They had watched the marriage happen in real time. And many began to believe that maybe, just maybe, this bond could bring strength, not weakness. Rourke noticed it too. Guards bowed lower. Servants spoke with more warmth. Children smiled at him in the streets. He wasn't just a human anymore. He was part of their future. One evening, as the sun set, Rourke and Velshara sat on a balcony, sharing silence. You saved me again, she said. I guess we're even now. She shook her head. Not yet, he turned to her. Do you regret it? She looked up at the stars. No, but I worry about what? That war is coming. This love may not be enough. Rourke placed his hand over hers. Then we fight. Together. She looked at him, eyes soft but firm. Yes, she said. Together. The stars above Zalari Prime no longer looked peaceful. Captain Elias Rourke stood on the royal balcony beside Queen Velshara. A black flag had been raised over the southern sky towers, a symbol of war. The Zorakai had declared their intent. Warships were gathering at the edge of the system. It begins, Velshara said, her voice calm but heavy. Rourke nodded slowly. How many? Hundreds of ships. Maybe more. They wait near the Red Nebula, just outside our sensor range. And your army. We have enough to fight, she said, but not enough to win easily. The Zorakai have been preparing for years. Rourke looked at her. Then why now? Because of you, he sighed. Great, I start a marriage, and a war breaks out. They fear what we represent, she said. Unity, change. A future where they no longer rule with fear. Rourke clenched his fists. So what do? We prepare, together. For the first time in Zellerai history, a human was allowed into the war-circled the chamber, where only the queen and her war leaders met. The room was shaped like a spider's web. With glowing panels and a large star map in the center, Velshara stood at the head of the circle. Rourke stood beside her, wearing royal armor crafted just for him. It was made of strong blue steel, lighter than anything Earth had created. General Kith, the Queen's oldest war leader, growled as he entered. I still do not trust this human, he said. Rourke crossed his arms. Trust isn't required, just results. The general bared his teeth. Careful, fleshborn. Velshara raised a hand. Enough. He stands beside me. Not as a guest, but as king consort. Speak to him with respect. There was silence. Then the general bowed, just slightly. We attack first, Velshara declared. If we wait, they'll strike our outer worlds. Millions will die. The generals nodded in agreement. Rourke studied the star map. What's this point here? That is the Zorakai fuel relay, General Kith said. Without it, their fleet cannot travel long distances. Rourke smiled. Then that's our first target. Back aboard the Royal Flame, Rourke prepared. For his first mission as a war leader, he stood in the command room, watching as the crew checked weapons and flight systems. For the first time, Zellar officers saluted him without hesitation. Velshara entered, dressed in full battle armor. Her eyes met his. "You don't have to lead this attack," she said. "I do," he replied. "If I'm going to be part of your world, I need to fight for it too." She stepped closer, her voice soft. "Be careful, Elias," he smiled. "You're the warrior queen. I'm just the guy who makes trouble." She tilted her head. "You make more than trouble. You make me believe." They touched foreheads briefly in ancient Zellery gesture of Lavande, then parted ways. The attack began 3 hours later. The Royal Flame led a small strike fleet toward the Zorakai fuel station near the edge of the Red Nebula. The stars around them were dark and twisted, and space storms danced in the distance. Inside the bridge, Rourke sat in the captain's chair. "Keep shields at full," he said. "We jump in fast, hit the core, and get out." The ship's pilota, four-armed Zellari female named Tessa, nodded. Jumping in 3, 2, 1. The stars stretched and bent. Then the fleet arrived. The fuel station was massive, like a black sea urchin floating in space. Zorakai warships were everywhere. "Brace for impact," Rourke shouted. Lasers and plasma fire lit the void. The Zellari ships moved quickly, weaving through enemy fire like insects in flight. Rourke gave quick, clear orders. "Target the shield pylons. Forget the guards, go for the core." One by one, the pylons exploded. The enemy fleet pushed harder. One of the Zellari cruisers was hit, spinning into the station. A bright flash filled the view screen. Then Tessa shouted, "Core exposed! Fire all weapons!" Rourke yelled. The Royal Flame fired a massive plasma beam directly into the center of the station. It exploded in a wave of white-hot fire. Zorakai ships scattered in panic. The Zellari fleet turned and escaped through a safe jump route. Rourke slumped in his chair, exhausted but alive. "We did it," he whispered. Back on Zellari Prime, the people cheered when the news arrived. The first strike had been successful. Zorakai had lost their fuel relay, and their ships were slowing down. Rourke and Velshara stood on the royal balcony that night. Fireworks lit the sky. Dancers filled the streets below. For now, hope had returned, but war was far from over. "Your victory earned their fear," Velshara said. "And now they will come for you." "I'm ready," Rourke said. "Let them come." She looked at him. "Before the next battle, I wish to complete our final bonding rite." He raised an eyebrow. "Bond ceremony." "That was only the first part," she said softly. "The second is private, personal. In our culture, it's called the Vow of Stars. It happens before a couple fights a war together." He nodded slowly. "Have to do." That night, under the twin moons, the queen and her human king went to the Chamber of Lights, a sacred place in the heart of the mountain. Glowing orbs floated around them.
Oh.
Soft music echoed from the walls. In the center of the room was a pool. Of silver water, they stepped in together, hand in hand. Velshara raised her voice. "In this light we vow, my life is yours. My blade is yours. My soul is yours." Rourke repeated the words, speaking clearly. "In this light we vow, my life is yours. My blade is yours. My soul is yours." The orbs spun faster. The pool glowed. Then, from the water, a soft light rose and entered their chests. Bond complete. Their eyes met, and for a moment, they felt each other's thoughts. Fear, strength, hope, love. Then the light faded. They stood together, not just as queen and human, but as two warriors bound by war and love. The next morning, a message arrived. The Zorakai had launched a surprise attack on a Zellari colony world. Civilians were dying. Fires covered the planet. Rourke and Velshara looked at the screen together. "Are you ready for war?" she asked. He nodded. Than ever. They stood side by side, armor gleaming, weapons ready. Together they would face the storm. The war had reached its final stage, the Zorakai fleet. angry and desperate, launched a massive attack on the Zellery homeworld. Hundreds of warships cut through space like sharp blades. Smoke trailed behind them, and fire lit the sky. But the Zellery were ready, and this time they had Elias, Rourke human, hero. Warrior-King, he stood beside Queen Velshara in the royal war chamber. A 3D star map floated in front of them, showing enemy movements, defense positions, and fleet status. Every light on the map was a life. Their main force is moving toward the capital, General Kith growled. They want to end this fast. Velshara narrowed her eyes. Then we'll show them how wrong they are. Wait. Rourke pointed to a narrow space corridor. They'll come through this path. We set traps, mines, and long-range batteries. Slow them down. Bleed them before they get close. The generals nodded. Kaiwa smiled for the first time. The human thinks like a Zellery. Rourke smirked, like a guy who doesn't. Want to die? That night, the skies over Zellery Prime turned red. From the royal balcony, people could see the flames of distant battles. Alarms cried across the city. Anti-air defenses powered up. Every soldier knew this was the final stand. Inside the royal chambers, Rourke sat in silence, cleaning his weapon. Velshara entered quietly. You should rest, she said. He shook his head. Can't, my brain won't stop thinking. She sat beside him, scared. Yes. Anyone who says they're not is lying. She placed her clawed hand on his. We may lose everything tomorrow, she whispered, but I will not regret anything, especially not choosing you. He turned and looked at her. Even if I die? Even then. They shared a soft, quiet moment. Then Velshara reached into a silver box beside her throne and pulled out a small glowing orb. She handed it to Rourke. What is it? A seed, she said. A gift from my ancestors. It contains memories, our bond. If either of us falls, the other can plant it, and the memory will live. Rourke held it gently. I hope we never have to use it. The next day, war came. Rourke stood on the bridge of the Royal Flame, now leading the main defense fleet. Velshara commanded the surface forces on the ground, coordinating anti-air strikes and shield defenses. Above them, Kaz ruled the skies. Zorkai warships blasted through the upper layers of the atmosphere. Zellery fighters danced between laser beams, dropping EMP bombs in smoke fields. Enemy dreadnought approaching, shouted Tessa, the pilot. Rourke leaned forward. Bring it down before it hits the shield generators. The Royal Flame fired. All its weapons, missiles, plasma beams, energy bursts. The dreadnought cracked but didn't fall. Suddenly, enemy pods began crashing into the city. They're invading from the sky, cried a voiceover. Comes Velshara, led her ground troops. Into battle, she moved like a storm, her energy blade glowing, her armored body spinning and striking with deadly grace. Behind her, hundreds of Zellery warriors fought with pride, but the Zorkai were too many. Buildings collapsed. Fires burned in the lower city. Civilians screamed. Panic spread. Velshara knew the final battle would be close, but she had not expected them to reach the palace walls. Then she heard a voice over the coms. Vel, they're breaching your side. Hold on, Neem coming. It was Rourke. The Royal Flame landed in the city square. Its belly opened, and Rourke charged out, leading a strike team of elite Zellery fighters. He ran through broken streets, dodging falling beams and plasma bolts. Blood soaked his armor. Dust filled his lungs. But he didn't stop. He had to reach. He found her near the tower entrance, battling 3 Zorkai generals at once. Her armor was cracked. Her blade flickered. She was slowing down, Rourke shouted. I told you not to fight without me. He leapt into the fray, blasting one of the generals with a heavy railgun. The creature fell, screeching. Velshara looked at him and smiled. Took you long enough? They stood back to back, fighting as one. Alien steel met human fire, claws against bullets, wings against grenades. One by one, the enemies fell. Finally, silence returned. The last Zorkai ship exploded. In the sky, the people of Zellery watched from rooftops, temples, and towers. They had won. 3 days later, the capital city began rebuilding. Smoke cleared. Wounded were treated. Songs were sung for the dead, and peace returned to the stars at the center. Of it all stood Queen Velshara and Elias Rourke. They walked through the palace gardens hand in hand. Flowers had bloomed again. The birds had returned. Children laughed in the distance. "You saved my world," Velshara said. "We saved it together," Rourke replied. She stopped beside a tree at the same tree under which they had first spoken. "After the rite, I never expected to fall in love with a human," she said, "and I never expected to marry an alien queen." They both laughed. Then she looked at him seriously. "Stay here, Elias. Rule with me. This world loves you now," he smiled. "I was never a ruler." She leaned forward. "You were always more than you believed." He kissed her under the tree, under the stars, and this time it wasn't just a story of war or politics or honor. It was love, real, lasting, eternal. Epilogue. Many years later, in a quiet field outside the city, 2 young children sat under a glowing tree. One had soft human skin. The other had tiny Zalari wings. They listened as an old teacher read from a silver book. And so, Captain Elias Rourke, a human from Earth, stood beside Queen Velshara of Zalari Prime. And together, they saved 2 worlds with one heart. "Did they really fall in love?" one child asked. "Yes," the teacher said. "They didn't care about species or borders. They saw each other for who they really were." "Are they still alive?" asked the other child. The teacher smiled. "Some say they now walk the stars together. Beyond space and time, watching, guiding, protecting." Children looked up at the sky, and far above, among the stars, 2 lights blinked side by side, one blue, one gold, together forever.